Shannon Tweed was more than just a well-known playmate. For decades, she was the subject of debate, fascination, and conjecture. She had cosmetic surgery to drastically change her appearance after being forced to leave school at the age of 17, and she soon became one of Playboy's most famous muses. Before she finally committed to Kiss's iconic musician Gene Simmons for more than 30 years, her supposed connection with Hugh Hefner had journalists busy for years. However, very few individuals are actually aware of the untold stories of Shannon's life. Her name is now back in the public eye thanks to recently released private images, shocking the entertainment industry once more. Find out what actually transpired by watching through to the conclusion. On March 10, 1957, Shannon Tweed was born. Her parents were common folks who worked at menial jobs and lived cheaply, attempting to make ends meet every day. When her father, Donald Tweed, went into a profound coma, everything took a much darker turn. In addition to depriving the family of its emotional support, the shock forced Shannon and her siblings to live in even greater danger. In an attempt to prevent the family from disintegrating, they were compelled to move into their grandmother's house while her mother went back to school to pursue a nursing degree. However, even such fortitude was insufficient. They started eating meals from government servants and nonprofits on a daily basis. One thing became apparent to Shannon as she approached adolescence. People were drawn to her beauty. After years of adversity, it was the uncommon gift that life seemed to return to her. She saw modeling as a potential means of escaping poverty. The paradox was that her greatest insecurity stemmed from her own body. She detested her breasts the way others looked at her, and the idea that other people's desires were defining her. She felt that she needed to modify herself if she wanted to advance because of her lack of confidence and the unseen pressure. Shannon made a decision at age 20 that would affect her for the remainder of her life. She decided to have a full breast augmentation. Although there were no significant medical side effects from the treatment, it was a point of no return on an emotional and professional level. Initially, the choice provided Shannon with the validation she felt she most needed. She opened the doors to adult mags. She started to get attention, get chased, and get paid to show up. Her career took off after the procedure. She won the singing talent category at Miss Canada and finished third at Miss Ottawa. Although her financial circumstances had improved, Shannon's aspirations continued to grow. She felt she was worthy of a larger stage and more illumination. Within that framework, Playboy became a viable means of attracting the interest of the whole entertainment sector. Shannon met the most influential guy in the Playboy empire, Hugh Hefner, through a part on the television program Thrill of a Lifetime. Being invited to the Playboy Mansion was more than simply a chance. It was a pass to a completely new reality. Shannon quickly picked up survival skills here. She was aware of what to say, when to keep quiet, and how to gain favor. She received the November 1981 Playmate of the Month award. Shannon Tweed won the title of Playmate of the Year a year later. On paper, this was the ultimate job that thousands of women aspired to. But things were much tougher in actuality. She had hoped that the title would lead to movie parts, but it did not. Shannon starred in several well-known television shows, including First and 10 and The Dukes of Hazzard, as well as several B films. However, none of these parts really helped her achieve the stardom she so desperately desired. She welcomed the advice to try her hand at sexy thrillers as if it were her only remaining choice. She became well-known in a different way thanks to movies like Obsessed with the Night and The Ugly Truth. However, Hollywood never let her break free from the box they put her image in. It's possible that Shannon Tweed's appearance on the reality television program about Gene Simmons is the one that the public remembers her for the longest. Ironically, Shannon's desired conclusion was informed by that same show, an image that is inextricably linked to a noisy, scandal-plagued private life and the sensation of total exposure. Her early decisions, which she did out of desperation and desire to get out of poverty, ultimately came back to demand their price. It's hard not to wonder if there was an unwritten agreement wherein power was traded for a dream when reflecting on her relationship with Hugh Hefner, which started and ended under a shroud of uncertainty. If that's the case, Shannon lost, but the billionaire won. The renown she was promised did not endure as long as she had imagined, and she departed that relationship with innumerable scars. Although there isn't any hard evidence to support their breakup, it's reasonable to guess based on Hefner's past relationships. Numerous women, including past lovers, accused Hugh Hefner of alarming behavior. In one instance, Sandra Theodore, who dated Hefner from 1976 to 1981, said she saw him having sex with their dog. Holly Madison also disclosed that Hefner coerced her into using drugs and that having sex with him felt like rape. The rumors may have persisted since Hefner never openly refuted these accusations. Consequently, a lot of people think that Shannon and Hefner's breakup was due to similar factors. It may come as a surprise, though, that they stayed friends after what ought to have been a painful breakup. At the Playboy CEO's burial in 2017, Shannon said a lot of nice things and encouraging things about his passing at his estate. She claims that Hefner had a big influence on her career and that she probably would not have succeeded to the same degree without him. However, Shannon also disclosed that they engaged in a sort of custody dispute after their relationship ended. They quarreled over who owned their pet puppy because they both loved animals. The dog later produced a litter of puppies, which Shannon and her ex-partner ultimately split up. Shannon also struggled to forgive Hefner because it was through him that she met her husband. Hefner was the one who unintentionally introduced her to the man she would spend almost her whole life with. Instead of coming from a serene location, Shannon's next great love came from inside the Playboy mansion. It was the starting point of everything and the site of numerous fractures. Shannon was still a popular playmate at the time, attracting attention everywhere she went. And the iconic Kiss vocalist and musician Gene Simmons was the type of man who never shied away from a confrontation with the most attractive woman in the room. It felt almost inevitable that they would meet. Gene proposed to her. Shannon was well aware of his infamous romantic reputation in the entertainment industry. She did, however, agree. Maybe she needed an escape deep down, but not because she thought she was an exception. A compelling enough cause to leave Hefner. And Gene Simmons became that door with all of his wildness and terribly alluring appeal. Contrary to what many had predicted, their relationship did not end in a fleeting affair after their first date. Rather, it persistent, strong, and shockingly durable. Before getting married in 2011, the couple stayed together for 28 years. Rumors about Gann's refusal to wed Shannon persisted at that period. He was claimed to be afraid of getting married, getting caught up in legal issues, losing his freedom, and most importantly, losing the money, reputation, and profession he had fought so hard to establish. Gene knew how expensive a divorce could be because he was a successful artist and he wasn't prepared to take that chance. But for Shannon, the protracted wait turned into an open wound. She made many sacrifices. Her opportunities, her profession, and even some aspects of herself to prioritize family and child rearing. Nick Simmons, born in 1989, and Sophie Simmons, born in 1992, were their two children together. While Sophie pursued acting after inheriting her mother's artistic flair, Nick followed in his father's musical footsteps. Eventually, under pressure from their kids and Shannon's unrelenting tenacity, Gene gave up. However, it is still unclear how Shannon managed to remain with a man who was surrounded by scandal all the time. The audience was shocked when a sex tape featuring Gene Simmons was publicly released in 2008. While some regarded it as blatant proof of adultery, others wrote it off as a PR gimmick to keep his name in the news. Shannon lost control of herself during an interview when she was questioned about Gene's womanizing behavior. There was a heavy, awkward stillness as she got up and left the set. An uncommon instance that made clear the extent of the suffering she had been repressing for years. Shannon obviously wanted the relationship to succeed, if not for herself, then at least for their kids. She was able to put up with the constant rumors of affairs because of that sense of duty. But when Gene started using his job as a way to get out of his domestic duties, there came a point she could not bear. There were speculations that Shannon had moved out and was living apart from Gene after that episode. Nevertheless, neither of them has officially announced the divorce as of yet. They continue to be a family in the eyes of the public. A discernible halt in Shannon Tweed's career coincided with the upheaval in her personal life. Many were quick to point the finger onto Gene Simmons, saying he made her take a backseat at home and leave the limelight. However, the truth was much more nuanced. Despite having a bright start, Shannon's acting career never lived up to her expectations. She was attractive, charismatic, and even capable of acting. However, Hollywood does not always follow just her sensible guidelines. Shannon wasn't one of the rare playmates who managed to turn themselves into big-time celebrities. Even when she attempted to venture into other fields, her career was still limited, and the majority of her parts were in B-movies. Her journey back to the screen was further complicated by a string of injuries. Shannon posted a picture of her injured ankle to Instagram in 2021. The post implied it was a work-related injury, but she did not specify the cause. Then in September of the same year, she shared another selfie with a bruised eye and several stitches on her forehead between her eyes. These, she clarified, were scars from a cyst removal surgery. Shannon Tweed was gradually forced out of the role that audiences had previously automatically assigned her due to a string of personal traumas. The image of a Canadian sex bomb, a representation of a time when success was nearly assured by beauty and audacity. The entertainment sector is used to quick replacements. Hollywood quietly learned to move on without Shannon's name as she left the limelight. And the once wide-open doors were only slightly ajar when she came back. Acting offers started to decline. Her golden years were no longer burdened by contracts. The Shannon of today appears to many to be a diminished version of her former self. However, few recall that she was once one of the most highly sought-after names in the industry. Shannon Tweed made nearly constant on-screen appearances during the 1990s. IMDb reports that she appeared in almost 50 movies. Not an easy task for any performer. She was viewed by directors at the time as a financially successful face that could attract moviegoers to theaters in addition to being a seductive presence. Time, however, is a merciless foe. As age slowly drew near, Shannon had to acknowledge that her acting career was coming to an end. She has acknowledged feeling regret in retrospect. Maybe things would have been much lighter if she had opted for a more secluded, quiet existence sooner. Few people are aware that Shannon Tweed began the entertainment industry by winning a singing competition prior to being well known as an actor and model. She had a brilliant ability for music, which was her first gateway. However, music progressively receded into the background as her cinematic career took off. Her marriage to Gene Simmons was the rare occasion when the public witnessed her rediscover that passion. Many bemoaned the subtle disappearance of a once promising voice over time. But for Shannon, there were too many demands on her life. She realized that continuing to pursue music at that point would simply wear her out more, so she had to make the decision to let go. Shannon Tweed leads a far more sedate life now than the general public may think. She embraces her roles as a wife and mother and spends the majority of her time with her family. She only occasionally thinks about going back to acting when the proper opportunity presents itself. Her most recent on-screen role was in the comedic drama Love, Sex, and Infidelity in 2014. Shannon is no longer at her best, but she still has a great deal of respect for her marriage and her decisions. Fans are optimistic that they might see her again in the future because she has never made a formal announcement about her retirement. Shannon Tweed is 66 years old and nevertheless looks young and has a steady, balanced demeanor. She has an estimated net worth of $50 million and lives a tranquil life with Gene Simmons at their Lake Tahoe, Nevada residence. It may no longer be a tale of glittering splendor, but it is the story of a lady who has been to the pinnacles, suffered loss, and finally decided to settle for peace.